When Alex White found me, I had already lost all memories of my past. Over these 4 years, he took care of me with great attention and care. The understanding between us often felt like we were destined to be together. On my birthday, he said he wanted to surprise me, but instead he brought back a woman who looked exactly like me. He suggested that I leave, and facing the ridicule from that woman, I chose to turn around and walk away. He grabbed me and blinded me, then I felt my neck being cut open. Alex White's voice echoed again, accompanied by the pain of my bones being shattered. Don't be afraid, you were never meant to exist. This outcome is better for both of us. I couldn't find my voice, filled with confusion, when I clearly just wanted to leave. When in love, things are peeled away piece by piece, but when there's no love, it's a stab after stab of pain. Before my consciousness faded away, I heard that woman say, "It's just a tool, if it breaks, throw it away. Why cry?" When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back on my birthday. Looking at the pot of boiling crayfish and then glancing back at my familiar home, a sense of tension tightened in my chest. I touched my eyes and noted that there was no sunken or sticky sensation. The skin on my neck was also unharmed. This left me feeling a bit disoriented, as if those terrifying experiences were merely a dream. It was supposed to be my birthday today. In the morning, Alex White left with his arm around my waist, saying he had a surprise for me. However, when he came back in the evening, he brought with him a woman who looked exactly like me. I was indeed surprised at first, thinking he had found a family member or perhaps my twin sister. But the first thing she said left me utterly shocked. "Emma Moore is back, so you need to leave." Hearing these words, I was stunned, my smile frozen on my face. "Alex, what do you mean by that?" Before Alex White could respond, the woman in front of me began to mock me. She implied that my task was over, that now that she was back, I was no longer needed, and that it was time for me to leave. I was eager to get an answer from Alex White, but he remained silent. In disappointment, I threw the apron at him, casually picked up my bag, and prepared to leave, but the woman blocked my way. She had a temperament similar to mine, but when we talked about leaving, it wasn't supposed to be like this. After she spoke, she shot a glance at Alex White. Just as I was still puzzled by what they meant, a pair of open scissors suddenly lunged towards my eyes. I was instantly stunned and didn't even have time to feel pain. "I'm sorry, but I can't fulfill that request." However, it was useless. A force twisted the muscles and bones in my neck, causing a crackling sound. The pain throughout my body vanished in an instant, along with my strength. As my body went completely limp, I could still feel sharp objects continuously poking at me. Just before my consciousness faded entirely, I heard a woman's voice beside me. She said, "You're just a tool, if it's broken, just throw it away." "Why are you crying, Alex White? You can't really be falling in love with her, can you?" I can never find the answer to why a man who lived with me for 4 years and claimed to love me for 8 would be so heartless. When he loved me, he slowly stripped my heart away, and when he stopped loving me, he hurt me like a knife. They disappear without a care in the world. Don't they fear the consequences of the law? The phone ringing in the living room pulled me back to reality. Seeing Alex White's name, my palms began to sweat. Deep down, I still wanted to confirm whether this was all just a dream. After taking a few deep breaths, I pressed the answer button. "Emma Moore, where are you now?" I gave the same answer. "I'm at home." "How long until you get back?" "Okay, I'll be there in 10 minutes, so don't wander around." The same words, the same tone. This is not a dream, it is something that really happened. I have truly been reborn. After careful consideration, I understand why he urged me not to run around at that time. It wasn't to surprise me, but rather to take my life. I only have 10 minutes. So, I quickly returned to my room, gathered important items like my ID and bank card, grabbed my phone, and rushed out of the door. The moment I closed the door, I noticed the fire still burning on the stove. Alex White would probably come up from the underground parking elevator, so in order to avoid seeing him, I had no choice but to take the emergency staircase. Fortunately, there were only 3 floors, and I chose to drive away rather than stay at the community entrance. The floor-to-ceiling window in my home provided a clear view of the square between the building and the community gate, and it would be much easier to drive out from another direction. Although I was calculating the time in my mind, I still encountered them when I reached the B1 level of the underground parking garage. I heard their conversation from outside the door. The woman said, "Alex, I hope you don't get emotional about this. Keeping her around might pose a risk, and I don't want our relationship to be complicated by someone else, even if she's just a substitute for me. Hearing those words, I was even more shocked than when I first realized I was a stand-in. Why would keeping me around be a risk? I never intended to get entangled in this. Not hearing a response from Alex White, the woman's voice became somewhat sharp. Alex White, you don't actually like her, do you? This time, Alex White replied quickly, Emma Moore, I don't. I don't like her, I've just spent a lot of time with her. His words trailed off abruptly as they entered the elevator, but it was clear that when he said Emma Moore, he was not addressing me. So, why do she and I share the same name, or rather, the same sound? Hearing Alex White say that in person still made my heart ache, and I almost wanted to confront them. However, reason ultimately triumphed over emotion, and right now my priority had to be to escape. I drove the little car that Alex White had bought for me and quickly rushed out of the neighborhood. Just as I reached the intersection, his phone rang. I could have ignored it, but to buy myself some more time to flee, I decided to answer it. Emma Moore, where have you been? Didn't I tell you not to wander off? Alex White said, sounding a bit irritated. I tried to remain calm and replied, we're out of soy sauce at home, so I went to buy some. I was taken aback by the other person's response. You drove out? Do I need to drive just to buy soy sauce? Does this guy have a tracking system in my car? No wonder when I used to drive out shopping, he always knew exactly which mall I was at. He even said it was because he loved me so much that he could find me. Seeing that I didn't respond, Alex White's tone became a bit heavy. Emma Moore, don't make me angry. Come back now. Otherwise, his words were cut off as the neighbor shouted loudly, Alex, your kitchen is on fire. The smoke is filling my house. Hurry up and deal with it. When I left, I had been cautious and poured the oil from the pan onto the stove, also tossing a few rags next to the fire. Since it was already on fire, Alex White probably didn't have time to chase after me. After hanging up the phone, I parked my car haphazardly on the side of the road, too scared to drive any further. I considered going to the police station, but Alex White hasn't harmed me so far. Typically, the police would just issue a warning to him, which might unintentionally expose my whereabouts. I found an ATM and withdrew all the money from my account. Given that Alex White's company specializes in developing intelligence systems, I was a bit worried that my phone might be tracked. So, I bought a new phone and switched to a different SIM card. I haven't decided where to go yet, so I called for a car and checked into a hotel in a neighboring city. After a day of running around, I felt uneasy after taking a shower. Looking out the window at the street illuminated only by the moonlight made me feel a bit scared, and I found myself whispering to myself, he shouldn't come looking for me, it's over 200 kilometers away from him. To avoid being found, I chose a small hotel that doesn't require any identification, located in a rural urban fringe area. Even if he is incredibly skilled, there's no way he could find me. I shook my head, trying to comfort myself. Perhaps I still hadn't emerged from the shadows of the past. As I drew the curtains to check the security of the door locks, I suddenly heard the sound of a car engine nearby. My heart raced. I recognized that sound all too well. It was identical to Alex White's car. Although I had forgotten many details of the past, my senses seemed unusually sharp. Different cars emitted distinct sounds depending on their drivers. I turned around and opened the curtain a crack, and indeed, I saw headlights illuminating the dim street. The license plate of Alex White's car was clearly visible. At that moment, I felt as if I had been thrown into a freezer, unable to move, engulfed by fear. Why did he come after me? Was there a tracker on me too? But my body had no injuries. He never loved me in the first place, so why is he still watching me so closely? Alex White has already gotten out of the car, and that woman is still following him. The bright headlights cast light on their faces, making them look like shadows emerging from the darkness. I can't tell if it's just my imagination, but it feels like they are looking up at me. I try to calm myself down and quickly take off all my jewelry and hair accessories. My hair was in disarray as I rushed outside. Fortunately, I remembered that this hotel had a back door that led to the main road in town. It was 11 p.m., and there wasn't a single car on the road. I had no idea where to hide. The hurried footsteps behind me made my heart race with anxiety. Alex White's voice echoed in the dark street, Emma Moore, don't run anymore. I've found you this time, and you're not being good. He stood about 200 meters away, watching me with a smile. Just like every time he came to pick me up, he opened his arms, waiting for me to dash into his embrace. However, this time I felt no joy like before, only despair. Suddenly, my ears perked up, and I shouted at Alex White, "Don't move. I have a few questions to ask you. Answer me, and I'll go back with you." He seemed to hesitate but ultimately agreed. "Who is the woman next to you?" I asked. "And who am I?" Alex White seemed to be thinking about how to start when Emma Moore spoke up first. "Emma Moore, I'm the surprise Alex has prepared for you. Look, we look alike. I'm your twin sister. Don't hesitate. Come back with us. Today is your birthday, and we're waiting for you to blow out the candles on your cake." As she spoke, she slowly moved forward, while I took steps back until I was in the middle of the road. Just as a beam of light shone on me, I heard a piercing screech of brakes. By the time Alex White and her companion reacted, I had already opened the car door and jumped inside. "Please, help me," I cried. "They tricked me into coming here. They want to sell me to the mountains. I beg you, take all the money I have, just help me," I pleaded desperately, hoping to seize this last chance. The man in the back seat merely glanced at Alex White and the others rushing towards us, then signaled the driver to start the car. When I saw the anxious expressions of Alex White and her companions outside the window as they struggled to catch up to the car, I realized that cold sweat had completely soaked my hair, and my body was trembling all over. Eventually, I slumped in my seat and fainted. It seemed I slipped into another dream. In this dream, a doctor was examining me, and then, in shock, he said something to a man nearby. The man had only a tall, upright silhouette and seemed equally surprised. "Are you serious?" I was thinking to myself why they were making such a fuss. I hardly ever get sick, and this time I fainted simply because I was too stressed. Alex White takes great care of me in my daily life and would never let me get hurt. Although I haven't been to the hospital, it shouldn't be anything serious, right? I felt dazed, as if I were dreaming yet also somewhat awake. When I woke up again, I found myself in an unfamiliar room. I had just gone through so much that I felt a bit disoriented. Just then, the door opened, and I was startled to see who entered. It was Michael. "How could it be you?" Michael Green, the calm president of Green Corporation and also the rival of Alex White. We have only met once at the business association, where I accidentally spilled water on his expensive suit. At that time, he looked at me with a rather unfriendly expression and immediately took off his jacket. I never expected that this time he would be the one to save me. "Michael, thank you, and I apologize for bothering you. I need to go now." Before I could finish my sentence, my legs gave way, and I fell to the ground. Michael Green looked at me and, noticing that I hadn't gotten up for a long time, unexpectedly helped me a little. "You've been unconscious for 2 days, you should eat something first." I ate slowly at the dining table, pondering whether I should ask Michael Green to take me abroad. But what excuse could I use? Just as I was thinking this, he spoke up, saying that he wanted me to meet someone later. My heart sank. Could it be that while I was unconscious, he made some kind of deal with Alex White to hand me over? I quickly said, "Michael, you can't just take Alex White's word for it. If you hand me over, it could lead to serious trouble. Instead, why don't you let me go? I can work off my debt. I'm willing to work for a lifetime if needed." Michael Green listened to me and showed a look of disdain. "If you want to completely get rid of White Corporation, you need to come with me to meet someone. Many of your questions will be answered. Of course, if you want to leave after knowing the truth, I'll help you with that as well." Once I confirmed that he didn't intend to hand me over, I followed Michael Green into a hidden laboratory. Although it's called a laboratory, it's actually quite spacious. There are many rooms inside, as well as various instruments. Michael Green took me to meet an elderly man named Professor Johnson. Professor Johnson asked me to lie down in a device that looked like an MRI machine. He told me not to worry, as it was just for a health check, and he hoped I would relax. Although others said there was no need to be afraid, I still felt a little nervous. Under Michael Green's icy stare, I closed my eyes and began to count sheep. By the time I reached the 999th sheep, the examination was finally over, and I felt all right. The professor grabbed me, both excited and astonished, but what he said left me in shock. "Michael, she really doesn't belong to humanity. How can she say that I'm not human? I have hands and feet, how could that make me less than human? Furthermore, I still have my heartbeat and body temperature." This old man seems a bit insane. Michael Green also appeared quite agitated, a rare look of excitement on his face. Teacher, are you sure you saw it clearly? You didn't misjudge, did you? I'm certain. Although she appears just like a normal person, with perfect skin pores and smoothness, there is no blood or veins in her body, which completely aligns with your previous concept. Michael, I believe your earlier ideas are actually feasible. If your notes hadn't been stolen, you wouldn't have given up on the research. Can you ask those two to pay a little more attention to me? I'm starting to feel increasingly confused. From their conversation, I've also learned a few things. Michael Green used to work on intelligent systems, and he once dreamed of creating a robot that looked almost indistinguishable from a human, aside from its internal organs. A few years ago, his design sketches and creative notes were lost. Those documents represented years of hard work, and continuing those projects would require a significant investment of time and effort. At that time, the Green family pressured him to take over the company, leaving him no time to focus on research. As a result, he gave up, not expecting that I would come along. In their words, although I have some shortcomings, I am quite similar to the robot Michael Green imagined. Even after reviewing the recent examination report and images, I still have some doubts. I pointed at myself and asked, am I not a person, but a machine instead? But I have my own emotions. Machines are not supposed to be devoid of feelings, are they? You have no blood in your body. But I have a heartbeat. That's the pacemaker, it can track your location. In the end, I came to accept the fact that I am a robot, as I recalled a notebook that Alex White often looked at in his study. Although I didn't understand it, it must have been the notebook that Michael Green lost. Sitting alone in the corner, feeling a bit frustrated, Michael Green handed me an envelope. The things inside might give you some inspiration. I looked at him with red eyes. Will he find me? Michael Green rarely spoke in such a gentle tone. He even reached out as if to pat my head, but ultimately pulled his hand back. He won't find you. There are jammers here. Don't worry. I think he might feel some pity for me, or perhaps he thinks he should have created me, which makes him a bit reluctant. Will you destroy me as well? After receiving his negative answer, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I love this beautiful world, even though I am just a robot. It was only after Michael Green left that I opened the folder. It turns out that Alex White and Emma Moore are indeed a couple who grew up together. Emma Moore's family initially disapproved of Alex White, so they sent her abroad against her will. Missing Emma deeply, Alex created me to be by his side as Emma Moore for 4 years. However, due to the notes not being detailed enough or his limited capabilities, I am unable to fully possess Emma Moore's memories. To cover this up, he pretends to have found me and claims that I lost my memory in a car accident, continuously recounting their past experiences to me. I have no choice but to believe all of this, and the people around me have no doubts either, as I have always lived under the identity of Emma Moore. Michael Green's notes have helped him improve the company more and more, and after Emma Moore's family saw his success, they agreed to let her return home. Therefore, they wanted to completely destroy me, treating me without any regard. It seems that even if I suffer severe setbacks, in the end, I am merely a collection of instruments. It turns out that even my identity as a stand-in was created. Now that Emma Moore is back, I feel like I've lost my identity. Who am I really? What kind of person do I want to become in the future? How should I continue with my life? I spent a long time alone in the room, constantly pondering these questions. Finally, I walked out of the room and found Michael Green. Did he steal your notebook? What is your relationship with him? It seems that way. Previously, we were all following Professor Johnson. Michael Green mentioned that their relationship was pretty good at the time the notebook went missing, and neither he nor the professor suspected each other. In the end, the separation was due to the fact that during the research, the professor discovered that he was overly eager for success and criticized him for it. As a result, he chose to leave. Michael Green tried to mediate, but Alex White even blocked him. Eventually, White Corporation was established. Michael Green said, "If you want to leave, I can help you go abroad." To this, I shook my head. "Can you help me change my appearance? I don't want to live with this face forever. Also, can my pacemaker be replaced?" Michael Green frowned slightly. "I'm not very confident about this. It carries significant risks and could lead to complications." Michael Green, don't you hate it? He stole your achievements. Don't you want to prove that you can do even better? Don't you want to truly showcase your ability to create the perfect robot you envision? He didn't answer me immediately. Instead, he asked why I would take the risk. I told him it was because I felt a sense of injustice. He could create me and also discard me, but why should he be able to easily destroy me? So I decided to change my identity to get closer to him and make them pay the price they deserve. Michael Green looked at me, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth, as if he found me brave. After he said that, he left without giving a response. Unbeknownst to me, Alex White discovered that my signal had disappeared and became very angry. It must be Michael Green, after all, that license plate was his from that day. If he finds out that Emma Moore isn't real, he will naturally know about what happened back then. In response, Emma Moore dismissively said, "So what if he finds out? After all these years, what evidence does he have to prove that you took the notebook? Besides, if the signal disappears, Michael Green might get angry and even destroy her, which would actually make things easier for us." Alex White disagreed with this perspective. If it weren't for you asking me to steal the notebook back then, Emma Moore wouldn't have appeared, and neither would Alex White. If it weren't for my suggestion, you wouldn't have achieved your current success. As for Emma Moore, the stand-in, you said she has developed a self-awareness that isn't in her programming, yet now you blame me? Emma Moore looked at the frustrated Alex White. Are you actually not worried about the notes being discovered, but rather because the robot resembles me yet is not me, and you have developed feelings for her, making it hard for you to accept losing her? Because of this issue, they argued incessantly, but in the end, they still came together to discuss their next steps. It took a week for Michael Green to agree to my request. He is indeed very cautious. Due to my proposal, he spent a week in the lab without going out. Every day, he discussed the details and research planned with Professor Johnson. Sometimes I can't help but think how wonderful it would be if I had trained him myself. He values the achievements of others so highly, let alone his own. A month later, Michael Green conducted numerous experiments and ultimately decided to proceed with my transformation. The girl's name is Grace. She is 22 years old, and she is in the late stages of cancer, with no family around her. She is expected to leave us in a few days. We have spoken with her, and she expressed a desire for someone to continue experiencing the world in her place, so you will be able to live as her. As I looked at the photos in her profile, I saw that she was a beautiful and vibrant young woman. Lying on the operating table, I hoped to take her place and live well for both her and myself. After that, I fell into a deep sleep, and when I woke up again, several days had passed. I was able to recognize Michael Green, which meant I still retained some of my previous memories. The memories of the original owner were still present in my mind, and I realized that Michael Green's skills were indeed far superior to those of Alex White. Looking at the unfamiliar face in the mirror, I took a deep breath. Alex White, Emma Moore, and now the game was about to begin. As Grace, I followed Michael Green to a recruitment meeting and soon saw Alex White and Emma Moore. I instinctively tightened my grip on Michael Green's hand, and he gently patted the back of my hand. Be patient, the fish will bite eventually. Sure enough, Emma Moore approached with Alex White. Michael, long time no see. Who's this? A temporary companion. I acted a little shy, pressing my lips together without saying a word. At that moment, Alex White also chimed in, his tone somewhat probing. I heard that Michael had previously saved a woman. Could it be referring to her? Michael Green still maintained his aloof demeanor. Alex was clearly aware of the situation. Earlier, he had encountered a woman who had been abducted by the roadside, and he had helped her. So, where is she now? Alex White asked urgently, while Michael Green answered calmly. After driving for a while, she noticed I was in the car and said she wanted to get out. Why is Alex so anxious? Do you know her? Upon hearing this, Alex White became even more anxious, raising his voice a bit. Where did you put her? What if something happens to her? If you save someone and then just leave them behind, what's the point of saving them in the first place? His questioning drew the attention of the small groups of people who had been gathered nearby. Michael Green showed a look of disdain, while Emma Moore stepped forward with a smile and said, Michael, you're still so heartless. You save someone at night and then just leave them, not even worried that the woman might get into trouble again. No wonder Alex always says he feels a coldness when he's with you. Her words cleverly explained Alex White's reaction while also taking a jab at Michael Green. Michael Green didn't care about it. After all, it was just a stranger, whether to stay or go was entirely his own choice. As we were about to leave, he stopped in his tracks and turned to look at Emma Moore. Now that I think about it, even though it was dark, that woman's disheveled appearance resembled yours, Emma, and the person following her seemed a lot like Alex. Could it be that Emma was misunderstood by Alex? This might need to be reported to the police. Upon hearing this, Emma Moore's expression turned awkward. She smiled slightly and said, "How could that be? Michael must have seen it wrong." I had been like an invisible person, blinking when Emma Moore looked at me and putting on an innocent face when Alex White glanced my way. After that, Alex White and Emma Moore headed towards the restroom, and when they came out, Emma looked extremely angry, clearly indicating that the two had had a fierce argument. I knew the opportunity had arrived. When Alex White stumbled out of the conference after drinking, I intentionally bumped into him. "Sorry, Alex, I didn't mean it," I apologized as I pulled away from him, my eyes red and watery. By this time, I had changed out of my heavy gown and into jeans and a shirt, looking like a freshly graduated college student, which was exactly the innocent look that Alex White liked the most. Alex White looked a bit confused. "Alex, you're drunk." "I'm Grace," I said to him. I had intentionally brought Alex White back, and when I knocked on the door, Emma Moore saw me supporting him and ended up slapping me. She's quite something. One moment she was holding on to Michael Green, and the next she was following Alex White home. Using the momentum, I pushed Alex White to the ground, which helped him regain some clarity from the drunkenness. "Emma Moore, can you stop being so suspicious? Grace was just being kind by giving me a ride back." Such words are something only you men are willing to believe. "Alex White, don't you doubt her identity? She might have been sent by Michael Green to get close to you, or she could be the replacement you've never been able to forget." Emma Moore fixed me with a sharp gaze, and I couldn't help but hide behind Alex White. "No, I'm just a temporary companion hired by Michael. I have no ulterior motives." At that moment, Alex White began to suspect me and no longer protected me. Emma Moore tried to pull me, and I was afraid of falling, resulting in my elbow getting scraped and bleeding a few drops. The hand covering my face also revealed the scratches made by her nails. Emma Moore's words came to a halt, as I was not supposed to bleed in the reality that Alex White had created. I couldn't believe it and felt that there must be some kind of misunderstanding. At that moment, Alex White angrily scolded Emma Moore. "That's enough, Emma Moore. How long are you going to doubt me? If you keep causing such a scene, I really won't be able to handle it anymore." After saying that, he unhesitatingly picked me up and took me directly to the hospital. I turned around and saw Emma Moore collapsing and shouting, and I couldn't help but want to laugh. "You can't handle this in just the first step. Your relationship is really fragile." In the days that followed, Alex White and Emma Moore would argue from time to time because of me. Eventually, she moved out, giving me the chance to sneak into his house to find evidence. Today, Alex White has an important meeting, and fortunately, the password hasn't been changed. I searched for a long time in the study but couldn't find the notebook. Then it suddenly occurred to me that there seemed to be a hidden safe in the bookshelf. Since I have very good hearing, I spent 10 minutes unlocking the safe. Inside were the notebook and some other research materials that could prove that many of his company's design concepts borrowed from Michael Green's ideas. I organized the items and was about to put them in my bag when I suddenly heard the sound of the front door's keypad. The footsteps were getting closer, and there was nowhere to hide in the study. Seeing the open window, I hesitated for a second, then quickly climbed out. At that moment, the study door opened, and Alex White and Emma Moore walked in. They looked around and then opened the safe in the bookshelf, discovering that everything inside was just as it should be, with nothing missing. "Are you sure she came in?" Alex White frowned as he spoke. "There's no doubt about it. If my safe is opened by someone else, my phone will receive a notification." Hearing their conversation, I felt quite dissatisfied with the two of them. It turns out they had already set a trap for me, which was really unfair. Should I check the room's surveillance footage? I did, but didn't find anything unusual. I'm not sure if someone tampered with it, so I'll need to bring it back to the company for analysis to confirm. Emma Moore walked towards the window, her tone a bit teasing. If she really came in, where would she hide? Here? She suddenly leaned out to look outside, but all she could see was a patch of greenery. I was being held by Michael Green, pressed closely against the wall. He showed up just in time to encourage me to jump down, otherwise, with my strength, I wouldn't have lasted much longer. Emma Moore didn't notice and shook her head at Alex White. She might have been thinking about the problem with the safe's mechanism, especially since the items inside were still there. Why don't you call her now and ask for her location? A video call would be best. I widened my eyes and looked at Michael Green, asking him what to do. He took out my phone and typed in some garbled characters, and Alex White's video call was automatically answered. The screen showed not how we looked now, but how I appeared wrapped in a towel and a headscarf. "Alex, what's wrong?" I asked. "I just wanted to ask what you'd like to eat tonight. I can take you out." I feel like eating crawfish. How about that? After Alex White agreed, he hung up the video call. I looked at Michael Green in surprise, wondering what this amazing thing was. It really was impressive. Later, he told me that it was some fragments extracted from my mind during my transformation. Suddenly, I remembered that there was indeed a time when I was video chatting with Alex White right after taking a shower. I couldn't help but marvel at how incredible technology is. However, I was currently being questioned by Michael Green. Why act on your own? Do you know how dangerous that is? I pursed my lips. Wasn't that a suitable opportunity that suddenly came up? I even texted you about it. Thankfully, you did message me, otherwise, I would have had to worry about it all over again today. I really couldn't argue with that, so I had no choice but to hand him my phone. I scanned the important documents from the safe, but I didn't have time to process my notes. Fortunately, I had been cautious and scanned some in advance. Michael Green looked at the content and finally smiled. "You're still somewhat clever. This information is enough to hit White Corporation hard." I'm not very familiar with business matters, but since Michael Green said it was okay, I chose to trust him. I'm not sure why I feel this way about him. Although he mentioned that there was no tampering with the surveillance at Alex White's home, which left me a bit puzzled. Could it really be that the cameras were broken? After that, I continued to reach out to Alex White normally, but I declined to meet by using the excuse of attending training. Since they had already begun to suspect me, it would be too risky if I were caught. A month later, White Corporation was exposed for plagiarizing Green Corporation's designs, facing intense public scrutiny, which also led to a decline in their stock market value. Unexpectedly, during this turmoil, Alex White came to find me in the neighborhood where I lived instead of dealing with the troubles at his company. He said, "Grace, I know who you are, and I know that you hate me." From his words, I realized that Alex White had recognized me a long time ago. He mentioned that the foundational code I used was written by him, indicating that he was well aware of my habits and little quirks. He knows my purpose for getting close to him, yet he still pretends to set a trap with Emma Moore, secretly helping me cover my tracks. I just hope you can feel that all of this is quite satisfying and that you don't hate me. I can no longer remember when I started to love the independent-minded you. Your habits and temperament have deviated from what I once thought, but they now bring me joy. I don't want to hear his long-winded speech, nor do I want to listen to his delayed confession. Alex White, I can understand everything you've done, but I won't forgive everything I've been through. Emma Moore, not Grace. As long as you're willing, I can give up everything I have now and find a place where no one knows us. I didn't want to hear any more of his nonsense, so I shook off his hand and prepared to leave. But then I suddenly saw Emma Moore, her face dark with anger. She pulled out a pair of scissors from somewhere and lunged at me. The scene was just like in my past life, leaving me momentarily stunned until someone pulled me into their arms at that moment. A figure stepped in front of Emma Moore, and I snapped back to reality. Michael Green's voice came from above. "Why are you so foolish? Can't you hide?" Alex White was already on the ground, a pair of scissors stuck in his chest. He looked at me, murmuring something, and finally smiled before closing his eyes. Emma Moore sat on the ground, crying and laughing at the same time. She asked, "Why? You clearly loved me, so why?" She then recalled that Alex White had once said he would love her for a lifetime. She laughed and said, "If you die, then you'll belong to me alone." After saying that, she took out a pair of scissors and pointed them at her neck. Someone covered my eyes, and I couldn't see what happened next. I never expected it to end like this. Later, White Corporation was merged with Green Corporation, and Michael Green gave me a large sum of money. I would also begin to live a life of my own.